Hey, what's up YouTube? This is Andrew from Team Blacktop YGO. Today I'm bringing you a video about, well, Master Rule 5, as it's commonly called, or the official term, which is, actually I don't really know the official term, it's like the new Master Rule update, the 2020 Master Rule update, something like that. Whatever the case is, most people are calling it Master Rule 5, and it's basically the return of Fusion, Synchro, and Xyz decks. People are really excited about it. Today I'm going to try to give you my thoughts on the winners and losers of it, and that sort of situation. So let's get right on into it. So basically, what we've got here, Master Rule 5 is basically like Link. It's basically the Link rules, but from now on, after this rule is implemented, Fusion, Synchro, and Xyz monsters don't have to follow the Link rules. Pendulum monsters still do, and Link monsters still do, but Synchros, Fusions, and Xyz don't have to. So that's pretty cool, I thought. A lot of people are really happy with this change. It's basically like how it was before Link Monsters were implemented into the game, and so a lot of people are really happy about that, myself included. And I don't really know how it's going to play out in the game, but we're gonna find out. We're gonna have a cool time, at the very least, trying to figure out how to play now. But anyway, whatever the case is, let's start to go over the winners. I'll kind of do a dichotomy based on each, like I'll probably say winner first and then loser, and we'll kind of go along like that. But of course, the decks that win are those who really don't want to summon Link monsters all that often. Some decks really like to spam rank 4s or spam fusions or synchros, and they don't want to have to go into Link monsters. This new Master Rule in particular makes cards like Junk Speeder extremely good, based on how they operate with synchros and stuff like that. And things like Shaddolls now, they can summon multiple different fusion monsters without the need of a Link monster, which is what Shaddolls really want to do. They do a really good job at that. And rank 4 spam decks, I think we're probably going to see the return of those, things like Light Sworns and other things like that. And other Xyz decks, kind of like Burning Abyss, can now make their triple Dante or whatever they want to do. So those decks are benefiting a lot with the new Master Rule update. Of course, this doesn't make Link decks any worse, but just by comparison, Link decks are not going to be as good because everything else is so much better. And it's kind of a shame, really. I mean, Konami introduces this totally new summoning mechanic for the past 2 or 3 years. It's like every extra deck that's relevant plays mostly Link monsters, and from now on we're probably not going to see that as much. Of course, the decks that don't need to run Link monsters will obviously run the really good generic ones. Nightmare Phoenix, Nightmare Unicorn, perhaps. Borrelsword Dragon will probably be a staple still as well. And even like special removal cards like Borreload and some other things will probably be extra deck staples from now on. But the fact of the matter remains is that Link monsters and Link-based decks are not going to be as powerful by comparison as they are to their Synchro Fusion and Xyz counterparts. Now, the weird one here is Pendulum. So Pendulum monsters, if they're being special summoned from the extra deck, still have to follow the rules when it comes to Link summoning. Like, you can only special summon them to a zone a Link monster points to, or to the extra monster zone. Link monsters also have to follow that same restriction, which is why they are a little less good in comparison. But the thing about the Pendulum decks is that typically, classically, back whenever like Pendulum Editions were at their height, and even a little bit after that, they loved summoning lots of like rank 4s and synchro monsters and stuff like that. That was sort of before the Guard Dragon combo came about, and before the Endymions were really a thing. Maybe we will see a return to that style of play for Pendulum. Who knows? But I don't think Pendulums were hurt as much as people really think by this rule, just because they utilize those other extra deck mechanics quite often. And Electromite is still a heck of a card. So yeah, I don't think pendulums are going to be nearly as bad as people say, but we will have to see. Another winner, or another group of winners, I should say, for this new Master Rule are the players who've been around for a while, since before Link format, before the Link era, the players who've been playing through Synchros and Xyz and Fusion monsters. These people are greatly helped by Master Rule 4, or Master Rule 5, pardon me, and a lot of people who quit the game or stop playing as much due to Link summoning and Master Rule 4 are going to come back now and enjoy the benefits of Master Rule 5, and I think that's great. I mean, it's going to help out Konami, the producer, or the company that produces Yu-Gi-Oh! It's going to help out the game tremendously because there's going to be more people playing it, and popularity is always really good for for products such as trading card games, and I think it's going to be really great. So I'm really looking forward to seeing all these people who played the game before Link format really return to their prime of Yu-Gi-Oh! But by that same token, the losers are the ones who started during Link format, the ones who have virtually no experience of competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! Or even semi-competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! Outside of Link format. I am really one of these people. Everybody here at Team Blacktop YGO are really these kinds of people. I started at the tail, or at the very beginning, rather, of like the Link era of Yu-Gi-Oh! My first competitive deck actually was Pendulum Magicians. Whenever they had like Electromite just came out and cards like that. So all I really know in Yu-Gi-Oh! Are like basically Link monsters plus with a couple of Synchros and Ixies sprinkled in. It's really not that not that uh, relevant to me as someone who didn't play before Master Rule 4. Now, of course, whenever I was younger, I did play, shoebox deck Yu-Gi-Oh! Or like a little bit before that, I would play with Synchros and stuff. But it's going to be, difficult for people like me and everybody else here at Team Blacktop YGO to sort of learn how to cope with not having to use Link monsters to kind of get out of that mindset. It's gonna be different, and it's gonna be a challenge at first for sure. But I think we'll definitely be able to overcome it and hopefully have a really good format and good time at Yu-Gi-Oh! After Master Rule 5 drops. So I'm really looking forward to that actually. Now this one's another kind of weird one, kind of like Pendulum, but it's not a deck at all. Konami is both a winner and a loser, in my opinion, with Master Rule 5. Here's why. So, like I said, the past 2 or 3 years of Yu-Gi-Oh! Have been dominated by Link monsters. We've got some really powerful cards in the form of this new summoning mechanic, things like the Nightmares, things like Borreload, Boral Sword Dragon, cards like Firewall Dragon that's now banned. We've had really, really good broken cards, and Konami is, maybe not all that vastly, but in a great manner, they are decreasing the relative power of that summoning mechanic that they've worked for 3 years on. That they changed the whole the state of the game for this mechanic, and now they're changing it back, partially, I suppose. Um, and I think maybe I know Konami wants to sell product, and that's kind of like their whole purpose as a business. But I think maybe it would have been beneficial for both parties, both the players and Konami. It would have been beneficial if instead of keeping Master Rule 4 like it was, where everything is held in sway or held in check by Link monsters, if they just made it like it was in Master Rule 5, if they just said Pendulum monsters and Link monsters has to follow this rule, everything else you're good to go. I think that would have made things a lot more interesting. We would have had a lot more new, Synchro and Ixies and Fusion monsters come out, and Konami would have been able to do a little bit more creative stuff with those archetypes. That being said, though, there is something nice about Link format and Link era in general, and how Konami used this new summoning mechanic to give us some really strong and powerful monsters. So it's in some sense it's a win, in some sense it's a loss for Konami, because Konami, I mean, of course, they're going to be gaining some players who quit during Link format, and of course, this will probably make the game more popular for people who've never played before. It makes it a little bit less confusing now, I think, um, maybe more depending on how you look at it. But whatever the case is, um, I think Konami is both in a winning and losing position from this, which is kind of unusual. But hey, whatever. So now that we've talked about sort of the winners and losers of Master Rule 5, I'm going to talk about some of the things, just very briefly, about what should probably happen before this new Master Rule comes out. And of course, the biggest thing I think is probably ban list changes. It's already been speculated that on the next ban list, or perhaps the one right before Master Rule 5, the Thunder Dragons are going to get hit pretty big, and in particular, it's very important they do this before Master Rule 5 because Thunder Dragons are a fusion deck. Even though they don't really use the fusion cards that often, I mean, they use Thunder Dragon Fusion to make Titans sometimes, but typically you're tributing your your Thunder monsters for Thunder Dragon Colossus, and sometimes use Colossus to make Titan, things like that. That deck will have to be put in check because it is super powerful and super easy to get out those Thunder Dragon monsters. It's a little bit different under Master Rule 4 because then you kind of had to use monsters like some Summer Summoner to get those Thunder Dragons out, but now it'd be really, really easy. So so they're gonna have to deal with Thunder Dragons, and they'll probably do that on the upcoming ban list As of yet, we are supposed to get a ban list no sooner than tomorrow, actually the 12th of January 2020. Perhaps they'll bring it out tomorrow, perhaps sometime later this week, but whatever the case is, I'm thinking Thunder Dragons will be hit. Junk Speeder is another example of a card that came out during the Link era that sort of is broken in the context of Master Rule 5, just because of its ability to synchro spam so much. Now sure, does have a drawback. You can only summon synchro monsters from the extra deck during the turn you summon that card, but still, it's really broken. Getting a special summon, getting a +5 from your deck is pretty good. So not bad. And I think I personally would like to see cards like Maxi and some other really good hand traps, or some not necessarily hand traps, but some going second cards to come back off the list. I think that would be beneficial for players who have to go second, especially right after the new Master Rule is implemented. Because I know from seeing replays on YouTube and other places that with our current ban list, the amount of insane stuff that goes on with Master Rule 5 and the combos that people can pull off, Maxi would be a very beneficial card to have. Of course, by that same token, instead of releasing Maxi, Konami could also put different really good synchros and Xyz monsters back on the list. Probably not Xyz monsters as much, but synchros definitely. Things like Trishula will probably get hit. Some facilitator cards like Saryuja will probably get hit as well, I would imagine. Maybe, maybe not, who knows, but we'll probably see some big ban list changes before Master Rule 5 drops. Yeah, so I think that's a pretty easy thing to think about. And speaking of which, I would highly recommend people before this Master Rule comes into effect, and even starting right now, even though it's like 4 months early, 3.5 months early, to start like kind of gauging, what you're going to be playing after Master Rule 5, and like kind of to figure out what you're going to do, and to get those cards now when the prices aren't as hyped. And it's always good to watch the market and try to figure that stuff out. So just a heads up there. And for those players who are like me and the rest of us at Team Blacktop YGO, to start getting used to the idea of Master Rule 5, not having to follow link rules for synchros, Xyz, and fusion monsters. I think learning that and sort of getting that under wraps by practicing by yourself or online on the many UQ simulators that we have, I think that'll be beneficial for us in the long run, beneficial for people like me to do. But that being said, that's gonna be the end of the video. If you liked the video, thanks for watching. First of all, and if you liked the video, please leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more content. I don't post very regularly. It's once every couple of months, unfortunately. I'll probably get back into it a little bit more because I'm back at school for my last semester of college. So we'll see how that goes. But nevertheless, this is Andrew from Team Blacktop YGO signing off. Thank you so much.